Greetings and welcome. This won't be a classic in-game tutorial video or praising the game to high heaven. I'm going to show you what is actually happening to our earnings in Rollercoin, because math doesn't lie. And I'll tell you why LIMERCOIN seems like a good option to me personally right now. No part of the video is an advertisement or financial advice. I'm saying in advance that these calculations don't analyze the fairness of the system, but the trend, power versus real output over time. To be precise, I'm interested in something the game won't show you and most players don't deal with: power efficiency, an indicator of how much a unit of power earns, in my case, an exahash. I don't deal with network power because, given the leagues and frequent changes in block reward, it doesn't make sense. I deal with power efficiency over time. And the result is that no matter what happens in the game, the value of power falls by tens of % in a few months. I started playing Rollercoin about a year and a half ago, and like all of you, I went through the same daily routine: games, task wall, events, buy, sell, or merge. Day after day. But then a few things stopped fitting for me and, given my notes, I gradually started calculating. By the way, I apologize, but I don't want to show my Rollercoin account here directly. I don't want to be so easily traceable. I've already been blocked on Telegram when I started showing this fact to people. I still have plans with Rollercoin and I don't want to lose this account yet. In 177 days, from September 20th, 2025, to March 16th, 2026, I grew by 426%. Everyone would expect my earnings to skyrocket, but the opposite is true. Let's get to it. For the first example, I have chosen Tron. I would call this the absurdity of growth, increasing my power by 426% only to find that my rewards have dropped by a third. Notice the change in what a single exahash could generate before compared to what it generates today. When you crunch the numbers, you will find that the power efficiency has dropped by an incredible 87%. Imagine buying a car with 100 horsepower. 6 months later, you replace the engine with one 5 times more powerful, yet the car suddenly drives 30% slower than it did at the beginning. This keeps happening over and over until your car is nothing more than a pedal-powered tricycle. That is exactly what Rollercoin is. To even stand still in Rollercoin, growth is not enough. I would have to grow faster than the product of network inflation and the block reward decrease, which is impossible without massive investments that, frankly, will never see a return. Let's move on. Another similar absurdity is the game token RLT. Again, notice both the reward drop of almost 52% and the efficiency drop of even almost 91%. Every exahash of my power lost 9/10 of its value in just 177 days. To buy a miner for 100 RLT in September, I had to mine about 1,373 blocks. Today, to earn for that same miner, I need 2,857 blocks. Practically, I have to wait more than double the time to afford the same thing, even though my account is 5 times larger. In September, 1 exahash generated over 0.0022 RLT for me. Today, the same 1 exahash generates 10 times less. This means that network inflation is 10 times faster than the average player's ability to mine. Even though I grew by 426%, in real numbers I am 52% poorer than half a year ago. That's nice, don't you think? Next example. XRP. This example is important for understanding how Rollercoin manipulates player psychology. Yes, you see it correctly, here my block reward increased by 31%. But again, look at the drop in efficiency. This is a perfect brain trap. You might be saying to yourself, hey, I had this much in September and today I have this much, I'm earning more. But that's the trick. I had to grow 5 times to get only 31% more. In reality, every one of your machines earns 75% less than in September. You might see your reward increasing, but the reality is that for a few percent more in rewards, you need to grow by hundreds of % in power. Basically, Rollercoin gets the average player into a trap where they have to invest geometrically to see linear or rather declining earnings in their wallet. But let's move on. As you can see, it's an illusion again. Despite the increase in block reward, my power efficiency is 77% lower, again in just 177 days. It's almost an identical scenario as with XRP. Rollercoin shows me a green number to keep me calm, but in reality, I had to pour 5 times more into the system to get 20% more. And I'll show you one more historical comparison with the player Ampli Crypto. This player released a video on March 2, 2025, where he buys a miner for Ethereum worth $450. After adding this miner, he had a total power of 7.136 exahash. If you look closely, you'll find that my account is 23 times larger than his was a year ago. Yet I'm earning only a little bit more. When we calculate it, we find that the mining efficiency has dropped by 95% in a year. And that's an extreme number, don't you think? Next example. Yes, you see it correctly, Solana shows quite a decent reward growth, but again it's an illusion. Yes, my block reward rose by 41%. But at what cost? I had to inflate my mining power by 426%. In reality, every one of my exahashes generates 73% less Solana than half a year ago. It's like getting a 40% raise in salary but having to work 5 times more hours for it. And you probably wouldn't like that very much in reality, would you? The last example I'll show you is a comparison with one of the top players. Chiquita himself released a video in August 2024 where he talks about earning around $2,500 a month, with a power of only 35 exahash. 1 exahash of power earned him over $70 a month at that time. This is the biggest madness. My farm is almost 5 times stronger than his back then. And how much do I earn? Something between $80 and $90. Do you understand the absurdity? I have almost 5 times more power than he had then, but my reward is 30 times lower. If I had my today's power in Rollercoin in mid-2024, I would be earning over $12,000, today it's just a fraction. These cryptocurrencies show as a withdrawal on the same day, and here you see the difference in price then and today. Except for Solana, the price of any cryptocurrency hasn't changed significantly to date, so the problem isn't the price of cryptocurrencies. The problem is that Rollercoin gives you 97 to 99% fewer actual coins for your power than it gave less than 2 years ago. That is the real inflation that no one talks about. The game is in a phase of so-called terminal stage of power hyperinflation. A moment occurs in the game when so much new power is already coming into the system that the average player no longer has a chance to pour in fast enough. According to Alice in Wonderland, this phenomenon is called the Red Queen effect. She had to run with all her might just to stay in the same place. In Rollercoin, this has gone even further. You can run with all your might, but you'll rather be moving backward. This game will soon hit its mathematical limit because if efficiency drops by 90% per year, everything will reach a point where generating 1 cent in rewards costs $100 in power. At that moment, mining becomes a pure subscription for playing, without hope for return on investment. But Rollercoin is built on trust in future profits. As long as there are players who believe that the next miner, or next event, will finally get them into the plus, the system has a constant influx of capital. Moreover, the sunk cost fallacy works here. Players who have already invested a significant amount of time or money find it psychologically difficult to leave. They would rather invest more to save what they already have, even if it doesn't make economic sense. And I promised you one comparison, with one game that I think is perhaps even overlooked, LIMERCOIN. LIMERCOIN has been running for about 2 years. According to what I can find, it actually pays out. I've been playing it for about a month, although I actually registered here about 8 months ago, put in a few dollars, bought one miner, played a few games and let it be. My priority was Rollercoin. And what do I think about this game today? 2 years is a time when such a game is already at least a bit proven, in my opinion. It's a constantly nicer and simpler copy of Rollercoin, and also more straightforward. There are games, a task wall, only in the form of time wall. There's a classic game shop, but there's no marketplace, at least for now. I don't know. There's a simple ordinary merging of miners and only 2 types of tournaments. There's also a classic season pass with an expansion in the form of a platinum pass, although only for game currency. There are discounts, but there aren't as many as in Rollercoin. they go nicely gradually, which doesn't overwhelm the network with power so aggressively. At the same time, there aren't as many functions as in Rollercoin, so the game can't mask the reduction in earnings so well. There is, of course, mining, which isn't real mining here either, but even here a fundamental difference is visible. While Rollercoin moves in hundreds of zettahashes, here the total network power has almost 3x less power than the raw strength of all my miners in Rollercoin, without any bonuses. This game is still relatively sensitive to activity, so for starting active players, even playing a few games can move them through the leaderboard, which is already impossible in Rollercoin today. Earnings even of top players here are not what earnings in Rollercoin used to be, but even so, it's a very interesting comparison. For an idea, the top 1 player in LIMERCOIN earns by mining, rounded, on average $426.55. I managed to take this screenshot on Telegram. According to the name of the image it was February 24, 2026, which isn't even a month at the time of preparing this video. This is one of the top players, today specifically 13th position in the rankings. So yes, you're right, I'm not comparing the first position, I'm just trying to get what I can from what I have available, at least for an idea. So, the top 13 player in Rollercoin had a power of 3 zettahashes at that time, which is 3000 exahashes or, in our case, 3 million petahashes. For this player to earn $1 in Rollercoin, they need a strength of 5113.54 petahashes, which is also more than 5 exahashes. Meanwhile, the top player in LIMERCOIN needs only 0.0811 petahashes for that same dollar. In calculation, this means that in Rollercoin, the 13th player needs 63,000 times more power to earn $1 than the first player in LIMERCOIN. And although I don't know how much the first players in Rollercoin earn, the calculations would surely look similar. The first player might earn far more, but they also have far more power than top 13. What more to say about it? I'll perhaps just add that LIMERCOIN is certainly not a path to truly passive income or infinite wealth. These games are basically the same and the same thing will happen in LIMERCOIN over time as in Rollercoin, I won't lie about that. The fundamental difference is in what phase the game is. LIMERCOIN still has a cleaner and younger economy, by far not as overwhelmed by players and power, which is an advantage and partly a disadvantage at the same time. If LIMERCOIN experiences a gradual boom, today could be a good time to build a position before everything turns into what we see in Rollercoin. If it doesn't experience a boom, it might remain stable for longer, with a slower and smaller economy and more stable earnings. But that's a question. No one will guarantee you that any of these games will work even in a year, but starting with LIMERCOIN, or switching to it, makes far more sense today than Rollercoin. If you want to try LIMERCOIN, you can support me and click the link below the video. If you want to try LIMERCOIN but don't want anyone else to profit from your activity, just type limercoin.com into your browser. Have a great time, thank you for your attention, and I wish you much success in the field of play to earn games.